Okay, so this is not the Damian Lillard video that I was expecting to make today. I was expecting to wake up, come on here, and just rant about all the rumors that seem to be going nowhere, which based on this trade they were, because we had been hearing about Miami for the last 2.5 months and then Toronto for the last couple days, but nothing substantial enough to even warrant a video. So I was just gonna come on here and rant real quick about that. Little did I know that I would wake up to Damian Lillard actually being traded, but not to any of the teams that we had been talking about this entire time, because Damian Lillard just got traded to the Milwaukee Bucks in a 3-team deal with the Phoenix Suns. So the deal goes like this: Portland will receive Jrue Holiday, DeAndre Ayton, Toumani Camara, a 2029 first-round pick from Milwaukee, and they're swapping the 2028 and 2030 picks with Milwaukee. The Suns are receiving Jusuf Nurkic, Grayson Allen, Nas Little, and Keon Johnson. And of course, the Milwaukee Bucks are receiving Damian Lillard. This is one of the more interesting trades that we've probably ever seen, just due to the fact that Damian Lillard is coming off of his best season. Now, he is 33 years old, and obviously when you're talking about draft picks and, you know, the swap picks that Milwaukee is going to get in return for this deal, that's not really relevant to what they're doing. They're basically saying, look, Damian Lillard is 33, but he can help us win now because he is coming off of his best season where he averaged 32 points, which, by the way, is the highest points per game average in history for a player that changed teams the next season. So that is definitely something to think about. Now, let's just start with the obvious conversation around this trade, which is, of course, the Milwaukee Bucks, who have been somewhat underperforming for the last couple seasons. Granted, in 2022, you could say that that was due to the Chris Middleton injury, which is why they lost a 7-game series against the Boston Celtics. But when you get first rounded by the 8th seed Miami Heat in 5 games, you kind of thought that something was about to change, which, to be fair, they did fire Mike Budenholzer, which is a change that a lot of people have been kind of begging for the last however many years, even people that weren't Milwaukee Bucks fans. But now you have Damian Lillard, who is playing with Giannis and Chris Middleton. Now, the obvious basketball conversation surrounding that would be the pick and roll potential, because now you have Damian Lillard and Giannis in the pick and roll, or Damian Lillard and Chris Middleton, or even Brook Lopez to an extent. You have to guard the Giannis roll to the rim after that, but you also have to pay attention to Damian Lillard at the 3-point line, who, by the way, you need to pick up from half court. So the potential is obviously there. The offense next season is going to be insane. The Bucks already had a really good offense before this, but now it's just going to be that much more dangerous. Now, obviously the area that's most in, I guess, speculation right now would be the defense, because you're losing Jrue Holiday, who is old but is still a very capable defender and part of the reason why their defense was so good in the last few seasons. When you're adding someone like Dame, who can give you 40 on any given night, I don't think that the loss of Jrue Holiday on the defensive end will be enough to outweigh the gain of Damian Lillard on offense. Now, obviously, we have no idea what this team's going to look like. Thankfully, preseason is coming up soon, and so we will see just a glimpse of what this team could look like down the line, but it is definitely something to think about, to say the least. Now, the Bucks slingshotted back to title favorites after this trade went down, and honestly, that's what I'm thinking at this point in time. Now, obviously, like I said before, we have no idea what this team is even going to look like, but we can make some pretty good educated guesses as to what we're about to see. But for now, let's just talk about the other teams involved in this trade, starting with the Portland Trail Blazers, because we've pretty much been saying that Dame needed to get out of there, and that was basically confirmed after they signed Jeremy Grant to that huge extension this offseason and then didn't trade their pick, which they of course used to draft Scoot Henderson. And so we were basically like, okay, this is it. This is the final straw. This is where he's finally gonna snap, and that's exactly what happened. Now, the Blazers are pretty much rebuilding, but they are in an interesting spot because they just got Jrue Holiday and DeAndre Ayton, who obviously Jrue Holiday is the aging guard who is basically on his way out, but a player that can still help you get wins. And then you have DeAndre Ayton, who is still pretty young, but is also, you know, in his 4th or 5th season in the league. He's 25 years old, and the thing to keep in mind is that he's under contract until 2026, so you can definitely do something progressing with him still in the near future. And keep in mind the fact that he's basically just been upset in Phoenix for the last couple seasons. And so you factor in a change of scenery and who knows what could happen. Obviously, Portland is not going to be competing for anything meaningful in the next however many years, but they are going to be, I feel like, a team that can just catch you on a random night. Like, they're still going to be a really good team. Well, not really good, but a decent team. You've got Scoot Henderson, who you just drafted. You've got Jeremy Grant, who you just signed to that massive extension, like we talked about earlier. You got Shaedon Sharpe, you got Anthony Simons, you got Matisse Thybulle, all really good young players. Obviously, Matisse is the oldest of the three, but you still have a really good roster there to kind of build around. And then you got Kevin Knox, who's just there. But then you got obviously the pieces of Deandre Ayton and Jrue Holiday that you just picked up. Like, that's a pretty decent team, but obviously not one that's going to be making any sort of major noise in the NBA. They're just going to be kind of that team that just gives you problems. The other title contending team that is involved in this is the Phoenix Suns, and what they did was pretty interesting because they got rid of DeAndre Ayton, who obviously, like I said, has been kind of unhappy there for the last year or so. But then you bring in Jusuf Nurkic, which I feel like is a definite downgrade compared to the potential of DeAndre Ayton, because he had shown flashes of the player that he could be in playoff runs in the past, especially in 2021. And so you're giving that up for Jusuf Nurkic, who at this point in his career is not a bad player, but is definitely, I would say, a downgrade compared to DeAndre Ayton, especially on defense. And of course, the other key acquisitions that the Suns received were, of course, Grayson Allen and Nassir Little. The shooting on the Suns team is going to be ridiculous next season, because now they have Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, Eric Gordon, Damian Lee, Yuta Watanabe, Grayson Allen, Nassir, like that's so much shooting. Now, one of the things to think about is the defensive side of this, and also just the overall depth, because that's something that a lot of fans have been talking about ever since they acquired Bradley Beal. And I think that this was a pretty decent move. Obviously, giving up DeAndre Ayton, even though he was unhappy, is noteworthy. But in return, you get two pretty good young role players, and Jusuf Nurkic, who obviously is not what he once was after his injuries, but he can still be valuable on this team. And so when you look at the overall just roster, I think that this is pretty good. Although it is worth noting that they still don't have a legitimate point guard on the roster. They're still going to be running Devin Booker probably at point guard for the foreseeable future, which is definitely something to keep an eye on, because after their second round series against the Denver Nuggets last season, it was definitely apparent that that's something that he can do. He had a couple of games in that playoff run of over 10 assists, obviously with Chris Paul not there, while also not really sacrificing much in terms of his overall scoring ability. Like, that was one of the best scoring playoff runs that I've ever seen from a player. And so he's shown that he can do this. Now, what this team is actually going to look like with all of these moving pieces, with him doing that I don't know. But we will see. Soon enough, we will see. So that is basically just my overall, I don't know, half asleep thoughts on this whole situation. This trade happened before I woke up. This was the first thing I saw when I opened my eyes. And so everything is really, really new right now. But I am happy because now I don't have to hear about these trade rumors anymore. And so now we of course move back to the James Harden fiasco. I'm kidding. But with all that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Subscribe if you're new. Hit the bell to be notified when I upload. Comment down below what you want to see next. And as always, I'll see you guys in the next one.